We can do another, I guess. Does everybody know I have arrived? I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I am solid. I am free. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate I dwell. In the ultimate I dwell.
Dear Sangha, we'd like to invite the monastics to come to offer a chant before the talk. Thank you.
community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha in myself, I aspire to have all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Taking refuge in the Dharma in myself, I aspire to have all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha in myself, I aspire to have all people beautiful communities, to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami.
Dear respected Tay, dear brothers and sisters, dear yoga community, welcome to the last day of the Wake Up Weekend Retreat. And we also want to welcome our friends who've come just for the day of mindfulness. Can you raise your hand if you've just come for today? Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us on this special weekend. We'd like to begin with 3 sounds of the bell and invite you to come back to your breath. From a comfortable sitting posture, you can relax your body. Feel your center. Just allow the 3 sounds of the bell to take you back to your body. Dear Noble Community, this morning my sister shared with me just how many flowers we have in this meditation hall today. So I'd just like to ask you to take a moment to enjoy the beauty of the flowers and also to touch the flowers that are inside of you right now. Today is our last day of the wake-up weekend, and I feel like it's a kind of celebration. We've had 3 full days to be together, to water the positive seeds in us, to refresh ourselves. I see many smiles in the audience. It's good. Just to be ourselves. And to know that we have a place like this, wherever we have like-minded people come together to practice, we have a place like this to take refuge in, to touch what is already inside of us, the freshness of the present moment. During the course of this weekend, we've had many very meaningful and deep conversations and sharings about our practice life, how our past and our present intermingle, and our worries about the future. And so today I'd like to visit again this issue close to our heart, how to be at peace with the past, how to be at peace with our past in the present moment. So all of us were younger than we are now, right? I remember when I was a child, a lot of my memories seemed to be like countertops and tabletops and things that were taller than me. My brother, I have an older brother who's 3.5 years older than me, and at one point in my early age, when he was kneeling, he was the same height as me. So I always kind of lived my life in that space of always being consigned to being very small and seeing things from my perspective. So we've all had experience of being a kid and having a different perspective of the world and even a different perspective of ourselves. And with time, we live and we grow and we forget, but we continue to carry on with us some of these perspectives out of a kind of forgetfulness, a lack of awareness of the ever-changing nature of our body, our feelings, our perceptions, of our environment, of our friends and our family. So today we're going to do an exercise to revisit from the present moment, the past, and touch what was nourishing in the past, as well as touch the healing aspects when we touch painful aspects about our past. So please sit in a stable position. We're going to have a guided meditation. You may like to close your eyes. We'll begin with one sound, the bell. Breathing in, we're aware of our in-breath. Breathing out, aware of our out-breath. Aware of the in and out-breath coming in and out naturally, freely, in the present moment, right now. Breathing in, aware of the solidity of our body, taking this space right here in the meditation hall. Breathing out, touching the stability of our posture, grounded in the present moment in our body. Breathing in, becoming aware of any residual tensions in our shoulder, our back, our neck. Breathing out, relaxing all that tension into the ground. Remaining grounded in our body right now. We visualize in front of us our 5-year-old child. Remember back to a photograph of yourself, the size, the playfulness, the youth of a 5-year-old child sitting in front of you. Breathing in, aware of my 5-year-old child with me now. Breathing out, giving rise to a smile of acceptance. Breathing in, we touch our innocence as a 5-year-old child. Breathing out, we smile to that innocence. Breathing in, we can see ourselves in the form of that 5-year-old child, our body. Breathing out, we remember the feelings that we had as a 5-year-old child. Breathing in, we see the way we thought as a 5-year-old child. Breathing out, we smile. We smile to our way of thinking, our way of feeling as a 5-year-old child. Breathing in, we touch our youth, our playfulness. Breathing out, we touch our impulsiveness as a young child. All there. Breathing in, we also touch our vulnerabilities, our painful sensitivities, our frailties. Breathing out, we smile with compassion to our 5-year-old child. Breathing in, aware of our 5-year-old child as a whole being, full of both joy and pain, hopes and fears. Breathing out, we smile with acceptance and understanding for our 5-year-old child. In our tradition, the practice of coming back to our 5-year-old child as an object of our meditation is a very common practice. It's a kind of metta meditation, a loving kindness meditation directed to ourselves. And sometimes it helps to have something physical to come back to if our visualization isn't strong enough, or if our visualization carries with it very heavy or negative emotions. It helps to come back to something that is something physical and nourishing for us. I have, for example, this cushion here. You might have seen it in our bookstore. It's a children's cushion. It's about a third the size of an adult cushion. And we can set aside a cushion and we can take a picture of ourselves or anything that reminds us of our 5-year-old child. So I have in my pocket my spirit vegetable is an orange today. So, and we can set that object in front of us and use it as a symbol of our 5-year-old child. The object of our meditation, sometimes we can get caught in it and just see the form of it. Sometimes it means a lot more, like a photo of ourselves or of an experience that we had that was very joyful in our childhood or very painful. And because these are the memories, these are the things that build our memories, when we touch it again, we might tend to get caught in that object. So we take it as a beginning point. It doesn't symbolize everything that we are. It's just a snapshot. It's literally just a snapshot of who we were 15, 20, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago. But as a starting point, it allows us to make a little bit of a separation between who we are now, with all the conditions in the present moment, and who we were back then when we were only that small, only just an orange. So when we try to make peace with the past, it's very helpful to keep in mind the 4 immeasurable minds, which are the 4 qualities of true love. In particular, the quality of equanimity, upeksha. Equanimity means we have the capacity to be still in the face of positive as well as negative We have the spaciousness in our heart to receive and accept, to acknowledge and value, to appreciate both the negative and the positive qualities, the seeds that we have inside of us. Whether they are strong or latent, whether they are manifesting in our life now, or they're something that we recognize in the transmission from our parents to ourselves, in our blood lineage. Our teacher often translates equanimity as inclusiveness because it has that capacity to embrace and hold everything inside of us. So often when we have a painful past, it's because regretful things have happened. Either something that we have done to others, or something that has happened to us, something that other people have done to us. And there's regret, there's pain. And we are not yet able, from a place of equanimity, to embrace and remember our experience in a way that we can heal. And because it's such a painful point, we continue to just touch the pain and run away. It touches us and we run away. Something in the present moment reminds us of something that happened in the past. It hurts us. We push it away. We run away. And that kind of habit energy doesn't give us peace because we always have to move. We always have to run. We always have to try to protect ourselves and push away that thing that reminds us of the past. So, loving ourselves, touching that fourth quality of true love, equanimity, that's why it's called a practice. We don't naturally have it. We are, by nature, as humans, we are pushed and pulled by our preferences and our dislikes. But now, as practitioners, we know there's a direction that we are moving towards, and that direction is equanimity. So in our busy life, we run and run to run away from the painful things. Now is a chance to come back, to stop, to be with our body. First of all, through our breath. Just to be at peace with the fact that we're sitting still and not doing anything is already the beginning of stopping. And then to sit and to observe something as mundane as your breath and renew our relationship with our body is a way of looking more deeply into who we are now. Too often we carry the wounds of the past and our image of our 5-year-old, 8-year-old, 13-year-old, teenage-year-old child with us, even into adulthood. I think most of us are probably in that realm with one issue or another. Our insecurities, when we think about who we are, what defines us, those childhood experiences of being with your peers, the painful times of being self-conscious, of trying to find out who you are, trying to define who you are by the environment around you. We touch it again and again in our work life, in our personal life, and with our family, our relationship with our mother and father. It continues. So to have a place and a space like Blue Cliff or your local Sangha, to break free of that habitual way of reacting is very helpful. To make time to come back to that 5-year-old child and begin to heal it. If we have a path of practice, it helps us to slowly clear away the things that have been obscuring our minds. And it also helps us to be open to the potential that we have inside of us. So, the breath, the step, touching nature, when we can suddenly recognize that the birds have been in fact singing all this time, and we just start to recognize it this week, for example. Or that the wind is blowing and we feel it on our cheek, and we appreciate the weather that we're having right now. Or the fact that we're sitting in a place that's peaceful, relatively quiet. People are friendly and actually smiling at us. All these small things in the present moment, all these aspects that can nourish us, help to strengthen us, strengthen our awareness of who we are now and not get dragged back into the past. And this is a real path. When we take up mindfulness practice, it's a way of looking at the world in a different way. We make a contract with ourselves that whatever has gone on in our life, there is a boat to carry all of that. Sometimes it seems like there's a lot of mayhem in our life, things we can't make sense of because it's outside of our capacity to understand. And that's understandable too. Everything is so interrelated. How can we keep tabs of all the factors that come into play to make something happen, whether it's positive or negative in our life? We get a job, we lose a job. We enter into a relationship, we lose a relationship. All of these points of action around them, they happen because of so many factors that come together. And up until now, without a path of practice to begin to be mindful of all those factors that are around us, it continues to be mayhem. So mindfulness is a way of looking, of being aware in order to start to have clarity in our daily life. Many people have commented on the 5 mindfulness trainings panel from, I think, was it yesterday that we had it? It seems so long ago. I think it was Dave who was sharing about the 5th mindfulness training, and he shared that he and all of us, in fact, we do the best we can with what we know at the time. We do the best we can with what we understand of the situation at the time. So it's easy to see that when we think of our 5-year-old child, right? As a 5-year-old child, you only know a certain amount. You're only aware of a very limited realm of awareness. I remember in kindergarten they asked us what we wanted to be when we grew up. And it seemed like every single boy and girl in my class said either a doctor, a lawyer, a fireman, or a policeman. And that was the answer across the board. And in a way we affect one another. Oh, you want to be a doctor? I want to be a doctor. You want to be a policeman? I want to be a policeman. I didn't know that being a nun was an option. So if I had known being a nun was an option when I was younger, I don't know. Things would have been maybe a lot larger for me. So when we visualize in our metta meditation and we hold that with love and understanding, the capacity of a 5-year-old child to experience and understand, it's easy for us to see why we tripped and fell, did things that were maybe foolish or not so wise. But as we grow older, somehow that capacity to accept and empathize, it decreases exponentially. And even as a teenager or a young adult in your 20s, the choices that we make and the actions that we do that have repercussions, it comes back to haunt us. We are the ones, first and foremost, who beat ourselves up for the things that we've done or said, or not done or not said. So coming back to what Dave said, we did the best with what we tried our best with what we knew, right? And the key part of that is with what we understood, with what we understood of the situation, of ourselves, of that other person at that time. Mindfulness practice is about our capacity to be. I challenged my sister in orientation to not use the word mindfulness in her orientation. It's very hard because we always talk about mindfulness. And so she challenged me back not to use the word mindfulness. So this is going to be my word. So our practice is in order to increase the size and strength of this thing, right? The bigger it is, the stronger it is, the more vitamin C we have. And that means, and it's an energy. Vitamin C is an energy too. It's an energy, and it allows, and energy is the capacity to affect change, to make things happen. That's what the function of energy is about. So in our practice to grow this orange, we, first of all, we're learning how to not be dispersed, to come back to ourselves, right? We can do a whole lot of good out there, but from a place of instability, it only breeds instability. And I believe we touched on this topic last time when we were talking about social activism, trying to help other people from a place of non-groundedness. We burn out. We help in the wrong way. We help, but we're not actually sure what our deeper intentions are, so we wind up hurting ourselves. So when we practice it, first of all, it helps us to come back to ourselves. It also helps us to grow our zone of awareness in the present moment. So whereas I'm just able to be aware of this right here in front of me, as my practice grows, I become aware of how I'm interconnected with other people's energies, with other people's actions, how my actions affect this person and how they affect me, for example. And that's in the present moment. Our practice also helps us to touch the past in a way that's healing. It helps us to start to differentiate between what happened in the past and what is actually now here in the present. So we can take this small circle as our 5-year-old child, the one that was very maybe a little foolish too. And in the present moment, we can take this larger circle as our potential, who we are now. And I say potential because oftentimes we forget that we're in the present moment, and we continue to box ourselves into this smaller circle. So mindfulness is this orange is a reminder. This orange is a reminder for us to give ourselves that space to touch that potential again. Whether it was a fear that we had, or a feeling of guilt we had about something in the past, that was, in fact, the past. And guess what? Right now, where are we right now? We're sitting in this meditation hall. We have that capacity to smile at who we are, what we are right now. And we have that capacity to smile back at the things that happened in the past. So that's the power of our practice. So what this calls for is in meditation we have stopping, right? Looking deeply. And we have a practice that has a direction. Okay, so this is a daily path for us. We stop, come back to the body, become friends with our breath, become friends with our aches and pains. We don't push away. With care, with equanimity, we recognize both the positive and negative things in us. That's the stopping part. We acknowledge and accept. We smile to it. And then we begin to look deeply. We look deeply into its causes and conditions. Why are we feeling this way in the present moment? Why has this memory of the past come up now? And from a place of stopping, just like when we began the meditation this morning, from a place of calm, there's more clarity. We can more easily and safely revisit the past and stay grounded in the present without being swept away. So our breath anchors us, gives us that safety net to know I'm in the present moment. And now I'm going to touch the past in the present moment. Start to explore. Start to explore instead of running away from that pain, pushing away that pain, or blaming my pain, blaming my practice of stopping and have that calm. That means calmness of body and calmness of mind. We can just be at peace with what is right now. We have that strength to look back into the past and start to understand. Then it gives us a direction to put our energy, where do we want to put our energy when these sensitivities, when these difficulties arise again in our mind, in the form of a memory, in the form of a relationship that we have now that maybe mirrors something in the past. We've begun to have a kind of glimpse, a small insight into its roots. And therefore we know how to better take care. Rather than to just avoid the whole thing, we can now, in a way, play with it. Play with those elements, the words, the actions, the environment that we choose. We can start to experiment and see what is it that actually belongs in the present moment and we can handle now. What are we strong enough now to handle as an adult that we weren't able to handle when we were younger? I believe that many of us haven't had that chance yet to get to that question yet. Am I actually strong enough to take this on? Because it's been such an ingrained habit to run away. And the more we run away, I remember the more, as a child, the more I ran away from something, the more scared I got about it. We build up a story that comes with the fear. So this is our chance to concretely turn in the opposite direction and free ourselves from that fear, from that shame, from that guilt. Okay, I usually don't tell jokes, but just to shake things up a little bit. This is one of my favorite jokes that one of my sisters shared with me. It has to do with an orange. So two monks from two different practice traditions met one another at a crossroads. And please forgive me if I'm repeating this, because I've had this joke shared before with the sisters. But I like it so much. So these two monks cross paths, and the first monk decides to challenge the other one. So he whips out of his pocket and holds it up in front of the other monk's face and says, "What is this?" And it's like a Dharma battle. "What is this?" And the other monk, who's a little bit more laid back, was like, "It's an orange." He said, "No, what is this?" And I said, "It's an orange." So the monk who really wants to engage him in this Dharma battle, he says it a third time, and he holds it right to the guy's face, and he says, "No, what is this?" And the second monk, he turns to his friend, he goes, "What's wrong with this guy? Don't they have oranges in this country?" So that's all to say that we can get caught in the historical or the ultimate dimension, depending. This is whatever we want it to be. It's something that, depending on the situation, what is most meaningful to us. So an orange is an orange. This is also myself. This is my mini-me, and I'm hoping that this is also a bell of mindfulness for you about mindfulness practice in the future. Okay, so getting back to what I was sharing. Our teacher likes to compare the mind to a circle, a sphere, and the lower part is called the store consciousness, the subconscious, and the upper part is our mind consciousness, which is what manifests in our mind, what we're conscious of. And below are all the seeds. So usually he has seeds drawn here. And when the conditions are right, something is touched, then that seed will sprout up, and it will come up as either a flower or a monster, something up here, where we can actually touch it. We become angry, our face gets red, we yell. That's a manifestation of that seed of anger. And we all share all the seeds, all of us. Even if we are a peaceful person, we do have seeds of anger in us. It just happens that we were fortunate that in our blood ancestry, that seed was not watered from generation to generation so strongly, so that in the present moment, if something a little irritating comes up, it doesn't easily sprout because it's quite small. So all of us have these seeds, and furthermore, all of us have a certain landscape to our consciousness. It's like a constellation of sensitivity, you can call it. Some of us are more prone to anger and impulsiveness. Some of us are more prone to compassion. Some of us are more prone to fear. It means that what touches you right now, what your kind of personality right now, that's your mental landscape. That's the landscape of your store consciousness. Some seeds are strong, some seeds are weak. And it takes time to get to know the landscape of your mind. So when we practice being aware of what's happening in the present moment, when that seed comes up, we recognize it. That's jealousy, or that's fear, or that's the beginnings of fear. Even in our body, we start to feel a discomfort in the body. Mindfulness allows us to recognize it and start to trace the conditions that watered it. And by being aware of these conditions, we start to be able to trace the landscape of our mind. We can start to see what mental formations are strong in us and what aren't. And we can start to connect our landscape with the conditions that cause us to be who we are today. So along the way, as we grow our awareness from that 5-year-old child to the present moment, we can use as a guideline the insights of impermanence. Everybody knows that everything is impermanent. That's one of the truths across all spiritual traditions, that life is impermanent, everything is impermanent, don't hold on. There are many ways that we talk about impermanence, like live your fullest now, all these things, just do it. This is it. But how can we apply that insight into our healing and our nourishment? So coming back to our 5-year-old child, we know that there are causes and conditions that when they come together, a certain thing comes into existence. And when those causes and conditions, even one of those causes and conditions, are no longer present, that thing no longer exists. Okay? We also know that when, as an energy, as a course of action, there's always an arising of something, an existence of something, and a disappearance of something. And we should apply this to our own understanding of ourself. As a 5-year-old child, our body is, obviously, it has changes, right? That's easy. But the wounds that we received as a 5-year-old child, sometimes we feel it still. Our feelings, the feelings of the past, of that experience, the harsh words that we receive from our parents, or our siblings, or our classmates, which happened in the past, they're gone now. But we somehow continue to hold on to it as if they were still present, because we make it present in ourselves. So if we have in mind, we understand that impermanence is the nature of all things, we should try to apply it to our way of looking at ourselves, in our body, our feelings, and our way of thinking. I used to be this way, I used to feel this way, but in the present moment, what am I touching? Maybe we touch that we still are like that, and maybe that's the truth, because we're still in this plane, it's still existing. But we understand, though, that it has a course of action, and with the right causes and conditions, it won't continue to exist anymore, and that gives us a direction in our practice, right? And maybe in the present moment when we revisit and we say, I used to feel this way, I used to be this way, and now, breathing in, I'm aware of the present moment, and now I ask myself, is this really who and what I am now? Is this really what I'm experiencing now? We can then answer that question. Breathing in, I touch the present moment with its nourishments, with all the changes that have occurred in my life. And with that awareness, with that acknowledgement, we can see, we have an insight that in fact we're not here anymore. It's down here. It's just our awareness hasn't caught up to it yet. Okay? So impermanence is our teacher would say it's a living reality. We try to bring it up as an insight that manifests in the way we see ourselves in our daily life, in the way we interact with one another. We have an argument. The next day, we try our best to see the other person in another light, because we recognize things in us have changed, things in the other person have changed, and we give that chance for the reality to touch the potential of that reality, rather than dragging, with our habit and energies, dragging ourselves back to make it forever, ever, an ongoing war, right? Many of us have difficulties with our parents. It's rare that if we don't have some sort of conflict with our parents, because they're our root and we grow, we transform, and we grow and we develop from them. So please raise your hand if you've never had any problems with your parents. For real. Please raise your hand and hold it high if you've never had any problems with your parents. Okay, good. That's what I thought. Okay. Year-old child, or that person who we were that has made mistakes in the past. How do we practice when we touch a feeling of shame, regret, or guilt? In our tradition, one of the wholesome mental formations is shame. And that sounds kind of funny. In the West, shame doesn't sound like a positive thing. But in terms of practice, it can be positive, because it can be a motivation for us to change direction, to find our foundation again, to let go of the things that we do not want to continue. It's an energy. And again, energy has the capacity to make change. But where shame becomes counterproductive is when it's excessive and it becomes something like guilt. And some of us have shared about that feeling, so I just want to explore that with you a little bit. Guilt is when we're in a place that's stuck. We are back in the past. We have not yet had the chance to revisit the past and its pain without feeling there's a direction. So we're stuck in our way of what we did and how we did, what we said, and feeling that the consequences are too large for us, or that we judge And again, we come back to, we always do the best we can with what we understand at the time. That's also something that's hard to really feel unless we look deeply into that statement, into that truth. They always say hindsight is 20/20. If we look back and we knew what we know now, we wouldn't have said that, or we wouldn't have done it, of course, because our awareness of the consequences, of the effect of our actions are much larger now than in the past. So that's why hindsight is 20/20. So it's very important that we give ourselves some slack. As humans, we make mistakes. We are trying the best we can with what we know. And so if there's anything to look more deeply at, it's not our value as a person, but our degree of awareness. So when we revisit the 5 mindfulness trainings and we look at the 3rd or the 5th mindfulness training, and we feel like we're pretty aware of ourselves, but gosh, we're still suffering a lot. And that's kind of bell of mindfulness to invite us to look again to see what areas that we might not be so aware of. To put some more energy into the practice of stopping of our current actions and looking more deeply into its causes, its effects. And then with that stopping and looking more deeply, that awareness, it protects us in the future. So stepping into the future, we have a direction. We don't continue to make those mistakes because we understand what those things will, what consequences those things will have. So if you're someone who's particularly hard on yourself, and this is a very helpful to a reminder for ourselves that awareness is the key. And if we're suffering, if we've caused suffering, then our direction is to grow our awareness through our practice. And that's the way, that's the antidote. Instead of getting stuck on the fact that it happened, that we did something wrong, etc. So the other insight that we can make use of to make our practice come alive for us is the insight of interbeing. The insight that everything affects one another. Our teacher says, this is because that is. It's a paraphrase of what the Buddha shared. This is because that is. It means that nothing stands by itself as a factor. It's not because I am bad that this happens, or that person is bad that this has happened to me. When we look deeply into ourselves, we know that what has caused us to be who we are is our background, like how we were raised by our parents. Our education, our family, the influence of our family, the influence of our friends, our own experiences in life that have shaped us up until now to be who we are, to see the way we see things now. So, looking deeply into all these very large, each one is a very large myriads of factors within each category, we can start to have a little bit more self-acceptance and empathy for ourselves. Any single decision, any single action we make is based on all of these things. And our parents, they are one, they are one of those. Our Father, for example. For some of us, our Father is a very instrumental factor in the way we've developed and come to see the world. Or we could even say in the way we don't want to see the world, for those of us who have negative experiences. But in general, what I want to say is that our father or our mother are one big factor in our mind. And where we get stuck, where we feel that there's an obstacle in our growth, in our potential to open our heart, love our parents, love each other. It often is because this relationship is very, in our mind, it's very unilateral and it's very monolithic. We receive one-way direction from our dad. That's sometimes the way we think. And also, our dad is just the way he is. But again, we come back to the insight of interbeing. Just as we are a product of all of these factors, it's the same actually with our Father. And that's the power of the meditation, meta-meditation of the 5-year-old child, when we bring, instead of ourselves as the object of our meditation, it becomes our Father. Now we have a chance to explore this insight, breathe life into that insight, that, oh yes, actually my Father, he has a lot more aspects than I had previously given him credit for. He also was a product of his upbringing. He also was a product, a victim of the way he was raised by his parents, perhaps. He also had influences around him, his friends, his family, his siblings. And he also has had a lifetime of experiences that have shaped him to be who he is, even before I was born. And this is the insight of interbeing that can help us begin to extend that empathy, that understanding that we have for ourselves, that frees us from that feeling of guilt and shame. This insight helps us to extend that to our mother, our father, with whom we have difficulty. First of all, so we can stop the blaming, stop the blame game. And when we stop the blame game because we're touching compassion and empathy in us, it gives us that equanimity, that calm, to now look at the causes and conditions in our difficulties, in our interrelationship with our parents. Okay. So impermanence as a real practice, interbeing as a real practice, we can apply this to something very close home to us, our relationship with our mother and our father, and our siblings too. So this constellation, we see background, education, physical environment. I forgot to mention that. The physical environment with which we grow, in which we grow, family, friends. And pretty soon, in our practice of growing our awareness, we realize that that person isn't that monolithic thing that we've always thought he or she was. But just like us, he or she is also a whole constellation of conditions that have made him or her choose to do the things that they do or react in the way that they do. And what comes of all this deep looking can only be a deeper understanding and a feeling of compassion for the humanity of all of us, ourselves, the frailties and vulnerabilities of our parents. And what we understood from the past, it changes, and now we have a bigger understanding. And it follows that with a deeper understanding now, what we do now is informed by that deeper insight, and we naturally make better choices. We're naturally more at peace with ourselves. We're naturally more at peace with our past. So these insights as a practice allows us to drop the things that need to be dropped. Let those things that have wither and fall off like a dead leaf. And it clears the space so that we can touch our potential. There are other things growing, shoots, sprouts that are coming up if we just be attentive to them and give them the space in the present moment. We acknowledge the past. We're not pushing it away, but we give it its due place. We don't allow it to occupy 89% of our mind consciousness anymore. We look deeply at it and we start to see the outlines of it, and we give it its due place in the past. We give space for the present moment to be the present moment and for us to be nourished, to grow in the present moment. So I'd like to end by coming fully into the present moment again with a guided meditation. First, if I can invite everyone to stretch. And just imagine you are your favorite flower blooming and opening. So in our most stable posture, today we've had the chance to visit our 5-year-old child, to recognize his and her qualities at that time, and to have a chance to see ourselves growing, but at the same time not be bound to our past, to just acknowledge who we were way back when, who we were when we were a little older, and now we're going to have a chance to sit with and offer metta to who we are right in this present moment. Breathing in, aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, aware of my out-breath. Breathing in, I'm aware I am in the present moment right now. Breathing out, I know this is a wonderful moment. Breathing in, I smile to my body right now. Breathing out, I smile to my feelings as they are right now. Breathing in, I smile to my monkey mind as it is right now. Breathing out, I send loving kindness to myself in the present moment. Breathing in, I am aware that I have a direction. Breathing out, I'm aware that I have a path of practice. May I be happy. May I be open to the joys of life. May I be safe. May I touch peace. May I be protected from harm. May I be free from danger. May I touch my afflictions gently. May I be able to love and be embraced by love. Everything is possible in the present moment, with each present moment. Everything. respected community, thank you for listening. Thank you for participating in and making the Wake Up Weekend so successful. It is just a beginning. It's a continuation after today. Even though you leave Blue Cliff, we know that you will continue to bring the practices home with you, in your body refreshed, your mind refreshed, and share with one another to keep what you've touched here alive. And with that end, I'd like to invite Brandon to come up to share about Wake Up and Wake Up related events.
Dear community, my name is Brandon, and first I'd like to thank Sister Tanium for a very beautiful Dharma talk, very inspiring. I'm a resident at Blue Cliff, and oftentimes when people hear that, their first question is kind of, their eyes squint a little bit and they say, "So are you a monk?" And I smile, and I say, "No." That's Sister D, another one of our lovely elder nuns. We have different perspectives about my time here. Blue Cliff is a very beautiful place, as all of the people who have been on this retreat have been able to experience. And I'm part of the Residential Practitioner Training Program, which is a year-long training program for lay people to live at the monastery and experience practice here in a residential setting. In Dharma sharing yesterday, a few people in my group shared about their reason for coming here, and they weren't quite sure. They shared that, I was thinking about it, somebody told me about it, and I didn't really have any expectations. I just kind of showed up feeling like there was something that may be valuable here, and whatever that thing is, I feel like I've received it. I think it's this kind of indescribable quality of recognizing that there's something precious about an opportunity to practice in community, even if we don't know exactly what that looks like or how that plays out, but it seems like something that touches many of us and encourages us to seek out something uncertain and unknown, some experience different from what we've had, around people that look different from the people that we normally see, but knowing somehow that there's a lot of value there. My own experience in practice was very similar, of having had a business background and training in a certain way of productivity and accomplishing things and setting goals, but having this sensation or this feeling that there was something missing in my education, and recognizing the importance of looking at that and spending time with that. Our sister shared very beautifully about the 5-year-old child and continuing to tap into that and realize that. I look at my own journey within practice. I came to this community a few years ago on a retreat at Deer Park, a monastery similar to this in California, and came in wanting to help and support and help build things and grow, and I had this desire to really share practice and spread practice. And it took me a little bit to realize that building bridges was really important, but that also there were a lot of bridges that within myself that I needed to look at that may have been damaged over time or not quite feeling whole. And so this process of being able to release my shells, and let go of the things that are keeping me in contact from other people and myself became just as important as building the bridges. And in fact, they became the same thing. I found that the more that I was able to practice, the more that I was able to support other people. And so soon after I arrived at the Plum Village community, I heard about Wake Up. And I heard the original name for Wake Up was Young Buddhists and Non-Buddhists for a Healthy and Compassionate Society. And someone with a marketing mind said, let's go with Wake Up. And it stuck. And my first experience with Wake Up, this community of young adults interested in practicing mindfulness in their tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh, was going to various universities on the East Coast. So we went to some Ivy League schools, and we also went to some lesser-known schools. We went to a prison center. We went to a young adult center for people who had dropped out of high school but wanted to still get some work experience. And we put on days of mindfulness, so similar to what we've been experiencing here, and just recognized how much of a spiritual hunger there was in this space, how much people were ready and willing to receive practice, even if they didn't really know what it meant, even if they didn't really know what it was that they were going to be receiving, but felt like there was a real energy here. And so in 2008, after Wake Up officially began, and Thich Nhat Hanh encouraged young people to start their own groups and said that we have sanghas, these communities of practice in which we can gather together, like we've done here, but out in various cities around the world. And there were a number of communities which had existed, and Thai encouraged young adults to not wait to start their own community, but that they could do it right away. So people who had gone on a retreat, either for a week or longer, or even a weekend, really feeling inspired to bring the practice home and to continue. Some of the panelists yesterday and the monastics have shared about the conditions for practice here being very precious. There's a lot less distraction in a monastery environment. There's also a lot less decisions that you have to make. Most people aren't planning for some events that they're needing to do later. And so in absence of distractions and needing to make decisions, it's a lot easier to come back to this present moment. And for those of you who have been here before and then left and come back, it's a lot harder to keep that calm in the midst of a busier environment. And so we find that the most important support for practice in any environment, including this one and out in the world, is each other, is community, is Sangha. And so wake up communities of coming together of young adults around the world, practicing together in this tradition. And so in 2008, when it started, there were maybe 3 or 4 groups, wake up communities, mostly right near the monasteries. Then a few years later, it grew to maybe 20, 25 groups in different cities. And now there's over 100. So there's Wake Up Sanghas, people here from Wake Up Sanghas in Toronto, from New York, from Washington, D.C., from Colorado, from New Hampshire, and from Boston. There's also Wake Up communities in the Netherlands, in London, in Hong Kong, in Botswana, in Mexico, in Colombia. And this collective energy of wake up, calling us to become in touch with ourselves, become in touch with the realities of and difficulties of practicing mindfulness in an environment that in many ways can seem counter to that, in many ways can make it seem more difficult. And so, as those who have attended wake-up sessions can attest to, the Sanghas can really be a source of refuge. Monastics, right before the Dharma talk, chanted about the 3 refuges, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, having a teacher, having a path, and having a community. And so one of the things that a community offers, and the wake-up communities offer, is a place of refuge for young adults, a place of support. So there are wake-up sanghas around the world. We have a brochure back at the, as you're leaving the meditation hall, which has more information on that. There's also opportunities as well, people who attend wake-up sanghas and receive nourishment from that space, and then continue to come back to the monastery. And so Blue Cliff and other monasteries in this tradition have opened up doors for young people to spend more than just a weekend or a week here. So there's a work exchange program where people can come for a month to a few months and offer some skill, some trade in exchange for a reduced fee. And then there's the year-long program where people can really deepen into practice. Sister D would not be happy with me if I didn't mention that there's also a 5-year monastic program that is available to young adults as well. And a number of the younger monastics here are a part of that program, especially a number of young monks who have taken the 5-year program. And any of them would be happy to listen or to share more about that if you'd like to explore that as a path. For those of you that have come from New York and Toronto, New York is having its next Wake Up Sangha meeting this Friday, and Toronto is having it a week from Monday. And you can find out more on their Facebook pages, or if you don't have Facebook, either Toronto or NYC at wkup.org. And if you want to know more, you can come up to me or any of the other facilitators. I'd like to ask some of the Wake Up facilitators to stay behind, and then anyone who's interested in joining a community or even starting your own, if you don't have a community near you, we'd be happy to share from our experience about that. I think many people can feel like they're not qualified to start a community, or they don't know very much, and it's the beauty of community to remind you that you already have enough to start a community, and that finding 2 or 3 other people that just want to practice together, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy, and you don't have to have a month or a year-long schedule planned out, but just getting together, even if it's just for tea, just for a little sitting in someone's home, that's already a community. And so whether it's a wake-up sangha or it's just you and a couple friends hanging out, it's all the same. We're generating a collective energy of mindfulness together and contributing to what our brother shared at our orientation about the mindful revolution. And recognizing that in many ways what we are doing here is a revolution, and it's not necessarily a loud one or one that's going to make the front page of the New York Times, although there are many mindfulness articles in the New York Times these days, but that can all be in addition to what's really important, which is connecting ourselves to this moment and to each other and remembering that this is it. So with that, I will say thank you. And I believe we'll have a few announcements before we transition to walking meditation. Thank you.